Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Are you serious? I'll be joined by my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, in just a minute. Hope everybody's doing well today. Friday, June 16th, man, the summer. We haven't even started summer. Months are flying by here. I can't believe we're halfway through the 6th month of the year. Got to be a symptom of getting older. We welcome everybody watching us today on, of course, TGI Sports Talk, Northeast Streaming Sports, Let's Talk Sports, and, of course, if you see us later on Sideline Sports, we want to thank them for their sharing of the shows, whichever ones do you see. You can catch us all the time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Please, if you like what you see, comment. If you don't like what you see, comment, and get to the TGI Sports Talks page and like, share, and follow. And invite your friends, guys. Invite your friends. We've got a few other things coming up today. Good morning, Tanner. Good to have you with us this morning. How are you? Alec, good afternoon over there in the UK. Good to have you with us. Later on today, we'll also have the Major League Baseball update at 3 o'clock. We'll dive more into happenings all around Major League Baseball. We'll have Let's Talk New York Sports with my co-host Dan Harris at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. And maybe we'll do a vlog. I've got a vlog out there now about Live and PGA, the PGA, which I haven't done a lot of shares for, which I probably will too today. It's still topical, so we'll do that. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Mets and Yankees and maybe some other stuff around Major League Baseball. We'll see how do the Mets, what is our takeaway from the Mets and Yankees first matchup for the season and how these two teams will fare going forward as we're getting deeper now into this season. We'll look at the NBA and NHL champions and give our last thoughts on those. And hey, did the best teams win? Not necessarily in this championship matchup, but, in the league. And we'll talk about D. Hopkins, too, and maybe some other news around the NFL. If there's some that you guys want to talk about or even the Mad New Yorker wants to bring up on any of these topics, we'll talk about it. D. Hopkins did visit the Patriots twice this week. A lot of chatter that a signing could have happened yesterday, but they're both going to take some more time to take a look at it. So we'll dive in to all of that, and I welcome in my cohort here, the Mad New Yorker.
Yo, good morning, everybody. How you doing?
What's that? Friday. Carlos, New York Edge. What is
that? That's a public school program for kids in summer.
Oh, cool.
And they also do, during the school year, they have different programs for the kids in public school systems.
Cool. Yeah. I got a little topic we'll jump into a little bit if we have time today, local here, but it'll have some national interest because of who it involves. But it involves an ex-NFL player up here in Albany. It's a messed up story. But let's start off with the Mets and Yankees. So the Mets and Yankees played their first Subway Series of the season this week, as all of us should know by now.
Good game. They was there.
You know what? I have to tell you, watching from home, these games were painful to watch. The play was not very good. Overall, I mean, there was a good pitching performance by Verlander and Cole early in the second game, but a lot of bad defensive play by the Mets, particularly, I thought. And the Yankees, they got some timely hitting, but, the Stars that need to pick it up for Judge are slumping a little bit. So which game are you at, by the way? Both of them?
No, the 14th. It wasn't a doubleheader.
What was that? No, there was no doubleheader.
The 14th, Tuesday.
So game one.
Wednesday game.
So game two. Game two. Okay. Which the Mets played horribly defensively in that game.
Yes. But to be honest, I think both teams kind of just leveled off and played bad as far as.
Yeah, listen, I'm not giving the Yankees a pass. I mean, they fell way behind Scherzer in game one, and I thought, we're done here. But then Scherzer's kind of been, a good start, a bad start, or, 2-1. He cannot get any consistency. There was a time you got a 4-run lead off Max Scherzer, you were not going to win that game, and that's not a sure thing anymore.
Yeah, and I think that also has to do with the fact that the Mets team right now, they're struggling as far as trying to get momentum from other players other than their older players. Like the younger players are trying to get consistent, and then the older players are just slumping. So there's no balance. And then Buck looks like he's making terrible decisions. So that's not really fair to say. It's the middle of the season now, so these guys need to suck it up, and they need to they need to get it together because it's not the heat is coming, and that's not going to help anybody.
Both these teams, if I look at the standings, they're both about the same out of first place. And
Right.
I look at this very interesting. I think the Yankees are in better shape because they need to keep it together until Judge gets back. Maybe the pitching's been very good, actually, when you look at the numbers overall. But the Mets have to fix like almost everything. They're not doing well in anything. Fielding is probably the best thing, and they didn't do very well in this series, as we said. But I think the Mets may have a better chance to stay in the race because the competition for the wild card spots in the National League is a lot weaker than the American League.
Another thing too, like the Mets have their injuries early, right? Quintana will be back eventually, and then we're looking for
but there's no big splash coming back to really help them.
Well, the pitcher coming back will help because they can stretch out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Best days for the older guys, right?
What's a bigger splash though in your life? Getting Judge back or getting Quintana back for the Mets? I
think for the Mets, Quintana, because they don't have to try to figure out that 5th, 6th day starter. Quintana gives you consistency. You don't know that yet though because he hasn't started this season.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think that's getting a starting pitcher is a bonus for any team if you think about it. So, and even if the starting pitcher isn't great, as long as he does okay will kind of get you through how what do we say that you don't like? As long as the pitcher gets through 5 innings, that's all that you need right now, right?
Sadly, yes.
You know what I'm saying? So
I won't go down that road this morning, but sadly, yes.
Right. So and that will give a person like Tyler McGill, who has sometimes confidence issues, maybe he's overthrowing too many pitches because he's trying to get into a mode of being a starting pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Like those kind of things help out a little bit when you get another starting pitcher. So, I'm not to say that they're going to take over the whole East, and going to win every single game. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that it's a boost, and it also will kind of calm them down, trying to feel so edgy. Well,
it's interesting you bring up Quintana because they basically they let Taijuan Walker walk, and they brought in Quintana, so it was basically a swap of those two guys. And they're probably been better off to this point with neither one of them on their team than if Walker was still here because he's been terrible for the Phillies. So they're probably better off with nobody pitching in that spot so far. So right. I don't give them a boost. I don't disagree. I just think, again, there's other things to fix though.
I know, and then if you go cross town to Bronx, man, I mean, what are they? They shouldn't even talk about Volpe being on the team or not because that's a confidence negative. Like you want to boost this guy, you just don't mention his name going back down to the minors because he's not a bad player, but he needs to be consistent. But it's his first time being in the lineup consistently, right? So why would you even say take him down or he needs to develop? No, he's doing what he has to do, and he's doing what most guys who are good, who will become better, get to. Derek Jeter wasn't great his first season. He was
better than this.
But again, he's not Derek Jeter.
I know
that's another thing that people in the Yankees need to relax. Calm down.
I get that, and I'm a big Volpe fan, and I'm on record as saying that, and he will be a big star here. I'm positive of that.
I think so too. We just got to be patient.
With that said, though, if you're going to get in the heat of a pennant race, remember, let's just assume they can't catch the Rays. Let's just assume that they're going to be in a race for 3 spots with 6 or 7 teams that are all really good. These aren't the teams in the National League. They're all mediocre that'll be fighting for, most of them mediocre, fighting for those 3 spots. So can they continue to have this guy hitting 190, $188?
Okay, but Keith, at least he's on the field trying to play.
You
got a guy you're paying almost billions of dollars to. If you look at the back end of this, in Stanton's contract, because it's so.
Two
And
different
he's
situations,
not
though.
playing. He just needs to hit the ball, and he's not hitting.
But you're mixing two situations, though, up. That doesn't
Of
really
course,
matter.
different but they might be different situations. But these are still two guys on the roster, and instead of putting one guy under the fire, telling him you need to step it up because you're getting paid too much, you looking at the kid who's trying to come up to become.
No,
to keep,
I would have moved on to Stanton. I'm not giving him a pass by any way, shape, or form. No, I will not give him a pass. He is not. He's not come up big in any time in his career with the Yankees ever.
Not
He spent too much time hurt when they need him, and he spends too much time in deep slumps because he's either red hot or he's ice cold. And my point with Volpe before we move on from there is, again, I don't want to give up. I'm not saying if I send him to the minors for 3 weeks to get his stroke back, I'm giving up on him. But if Peraza continues to play well in the minors, they may have to do that. I don't want to see Kiner Falefa back there. Believe me, that's not the answer. But maybe they swap the two kids for a couple of weeks and see what.
It's amazing you even bring up IKF because he's the one guy who's actually being consistent right now.
Yeah. Well, and again,
it's just, again, it's baseball. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. If you don't understand the game, like here, the New York media is crazy. Like the things that they're saying, and even with this whole thing with Buck, I'm not a big fan of Buck.
I know that.
But to even say he's on the hot seat, man, that's just remarkably. You just gave the guy the best manager of the year award last season. Now you're gonna just throw him under the bus? Come on.
He didn't start to suck overnight. This isn't Buck's fault. Buck deserves some blame for keeping Lindor in a 3-hole too long and things like that. But but you remember, you're 70 games. Pretty soon we'll be halfway through this season. Pretty soon. And you can't just wait and wait and wait and wait.
Is it Buck's fault that they got two agent pitchers that are not performing doing what they were doing in the last teams that they were on?
That was always dangerous to tie up all that money in two guys that were 40 years old or close to 40 years old.
And what did I say to you before the season started? Because I didn't. When you said Verlander, I was like, I don't think the Mets should get him. I said to you, and I know it's a tough decision to make. I would rather go with a younger arm than go with two guys that have that experience, because those guys, they're at the end of the road. With the younger guy, yeah, you don't know what you get. But
where are those younger guys?
He's in the roster. He's at least on the roster.
Where are those younger guys? Managers always get the sack for lack of pair production. Some play guys are safe. Guys like Boone, who probably should have been sacked just because don't get me started.
Well, everybody in New York knows about Boone's situation, and it wasn't less him managing the team than the players that were not producing.
And Alec, you're right. There are times where managers undeservedly will get fired because of player performance. I get that. You can fire one guy usually, and you can fire 25. That's for sure.
Fire them all.
But Carlos would fire them all. We know that. But some guys aren't getting. Buck's not getting fired. He's not. Last year, if you want to compare it to the Phillies were not playing good baseball. Joe Girardi already had a track record with the Phillies and before that, and teams play tight under Girardi, and that was somewhere where you could give a team a boost by making a change. Mets are not making a change at the manager that's going to give them a boost and help them win games. It's not going to happen.
Girardi set himself on that road by saying his team was incapable of doing what needed to be done to be a playoff team. And those not in those exact words, but he was like, "That's not the team this is not a team that's going to take us to a World Series."
I've always had a problem with Girardi.
And when he said that, the team was like, these guys talk. Whether they're getting paid or not. You don't want to play for a guy like that.
He's just wound so tight.
Yeah,
they play tight, like he carries himself.
And look, and at the end of the day, if he would have been on the Yankees saying that, it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
But he was not on the Yankees. He was on the Phillies.
Yeah.
So when you're on the Yankees, sometimes you can say things, and people, like, if you even look at the media all the stuff that's coming out of the media, you can just look around and be like, yeah, that's true. But if you're not on the Yankees and you say things that are negative, people would just be like, this is not good. We got to move on from this guy, right? So,
well, You're not wrong, Alec. There are guys, and some guys will probably get fired. There's still guys I think that are in trouble that it isn't necessarily their fault. I think Scott Servais in Seattle could be in trouble. I think Bob Melvin could be in trouble out in San Diego, and he's one of the best, highest regarded managers in baseball.
Is Bob Melvin pitching and does his contract
listen,
pitch or hit?
I'm not telling you he should be fired. I'm telling you they're two guys that could pay the price for the underperformance.
I know, but in that media down in California too, they don't really have much to talk about except Oakland going to Las Vegas. But then when they talk about the Padres, if I'll tell you what, the Padres are in a great situation because Oakland's there, and it's taken away from all that's going on in San Diego.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's the case, but
no, think about it, because if these teams were here in New York, you would. It don't matter if they're 10 blocks away. You would just not stop hearing about it.
Well, I mean, San Francisco might as well be an entire 2 states away from San Diego. The size of that's the gap away.
The thing about being in San Francisco is that you have a mature baseball audience.
Oakland. I'm sorry, Oakland and San Francisco.
The Oakland situation is, no matter who is a baseball audience there, they're all disliking the ownership right now and Major League Baseball. So those are two different minds.
Listen, I'm pretty clear on the Oakland situation. The fans are as much to blame for Oakland leaving as the ownership. Sorry.
As somebody who likes baseball and the history of baseball with Oakland was always in the mix, and in the early days, and even with the whole the movie that came out with the
Moneyball
and all that situation that they did over there. This is a legitimate situation where ownership has never stepped up ever financially, and Major League Baseball's been carrying that, and they were saying it was okay. So I think this is more of a Major League Baseball problem than it is an Oakland problem.
I don't know if I agree, because Oakland, even when they were winning 3 championships in a row in the 70s, the fans didn't support them. Come playoff time, they did, but during the regular season, they're getting 5,000-6,000 people in that place to watch the A's play. The fans have never really supported that team, and now part of that goes to the team. I get it; they're playing in a football stadium that's antiquated. I understand all that, but nobody's sucked it up on the fan side either. Come out and support that team, except when they were winning championships and come for the playoffs. So I have a problem with the fans in the Oakland area as well.
I mean, Keith, that's not really fair to say, because I saw I saw the games of the Bash Brothers, and those stadiums were way before they were in the playoffs. They were filling up the crowds to see Canseco McGuire hit.
Well, sure, because steroids always draw crowds. We know that.
Hey, listen, but you're saying that crowd wasn't big.
I know what it was like in the 70s when they were winning 3 championships in a row. They got a team that formed.
But in the late 80s, that team, Ricky Henderson, Dave Stewart, Mark McGuire, Canseco, all those guys, Eckersley, those guys were bringing in fans.
That 70s team would have killed that team.
I know, but this was, again, you mentioned something else, steroid era.
No, I agree. Major sports problem. Some owners have teams now just to make money and not win championships. A lot of them are that way.
Yeah,
a lot of them are that way. Steve Cohen isn't. He wants to win, so he's going to spend all his money, which is fine. It's a toy for him. And again, back in the day, like the days I'm talking about, owners weren't looking to make money necessarily. They were in it because they were sportsmen. Not today. Big corporations looking to make money.
I think that the times have changed. The fact that ownerships are now like conglomerates, like Kroenke's got like 15 teams and all of them are winning.
What's he won? 4 championships in 4 different sports in the last year or something?
He just wins, baby. He's doing better than Al Davis, right?
Good for him.
But again, he's also one of those owners that leagues dislike because he's done what he's done. But the Oakland situation, I think, is a mess, and I don't think it's just you can just attribute it to the fan base, because that's not fair either. And Major League Baseball's been carrying these kind of teams. Unfortunately, the Royals, the Reds, we can go on and on with these lower tier teams that are consistently in the lower tiers, and it's not fair to the fans either in those places. Listen, I lived in the South where there wasn't even a baseball team. The closest one was either the Cardinals or the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
And I didn't like either of them. So, but I would watch them because I knew that the Yankees or the Mets eventually would play some of these guys. So.
Good point. Good point. Last takeaways on the Mets and Yankees. I think the Yankees will. Well, here's my take on the Yankees. Judge will get healthy whenever he gets healthy. I do think he'll be out for a little while. This is gonna linger for a bit.
You think it's a broken toe?
I do. I do think they'll find a way to eke out a playoff spot. But I think we'll see the same result we've seen for the last 5 years in the playoffs. When the elite pitching gets there, they will fold up like a cheap tent.
I agree with you. The series will definitely be determined by whoever has the better pitching. Right now, they're both on the same boat with having the pitching be excellent.
Well, reports are that Carlos Rendon threw pitches to guys holding the bat the other day. So I don't know what that actually means, but
my Lord, I almost forgot about Rendon.
Right. I wish I could forget about Rendon. Good grief! And the Mets. I don't know about the Mets. I've been saying for weeks I think they'll get it together, but every time I look up, they've gone 2-8, 3-7, and they fall further behind. And their one saving grace is, as I said before, the race for the 3 wild card spots is going to be amongst much more mediocre teams than, say, the American League will have. You're going to be chasing the Phillies, the Marlins. And again, some of these teams are playing okay. The Pirates or the Brewers, maybe the Reds. The Reds have gotten themselves back in here. And then the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks, and maybe the Giants. But again, not as strong a teams as the teams in the American League, I don't think.
And it's not going to be the saving grace, but something that's going to affect them is the younger players that they have on the roster. And hopefully it goes up instead, or plateaus instead of just going down. Alvarez, you could tell, is getting better. Defensively, he's always had a bat. So defensively, as a catcher, he's getting better. He's not there yet. There's games he could tell.
Yeah,
but
he needs to do a little better.
Beatty, defenses and his bat are kind of almost balanced out. He needs to improve both. But he's young, and you could tell that he's getting better every game he plays, right? And then Vientos, when he gets a chance, he needs to, step it up. I just feel like
with Alonso out, he's going to get more of a chance. And
I felt like before Alonso was out, they were just kind of like, should we play him? Should we not play him? And now he's going to be getting played, and now you will see a better understanding what player he's going to, he is. So. Again,
one of my problems with Buck is he sticks with Vogelback. What the hell is his name? I don't even know if that is. Did I say it right? Vogelback at DH. To me, I would just be kind of rotating that DH spot with Batty and Alonso and Viento, and the other two play the field. And then give him a spell them here and there. Yeah, I think the Mets season rides on these kids. I think you're right.
I don't want to say this because he's a great player, and I like him. His attitude is great, and it's not that he's bad, but the Mets are really like Escobar is the one who's on the way out. If you think about it, because you want somebody there that, again, they changed the scheme this year, so they have to play more they have to play better defense and have more range at the third, second, and short spot.
Well, Escobar does. He's the best defensive player, the ones we just talked about, but he can't be just a defensive replacement for the money.
That's why I'm saying that. Like, he's the one slowly getting faded out because he can only play great so many games.
He's likely to be the guy who gets traded.
I hope not, because he's one of those.
He also played well in the second half last year. He's a better second half player than he is the first.
Yeah, but again. Is that because he's getting more rest, or is it because he gets better locked in?
Oh, well, I would think
because of both.
Well, last year he played through his problems and then he got hot. So I don't know whether he's going to get as hot sitting on a bench as he has been more recently. So
he's, oh man, that's why I said I don't want to say it because he's an integral part for sure.
Actually, let's stick on this topic for 1 second. With the trade deadline going to come up here in a month or so, The most likely guys for the Yankees to be able to move to get anything of value to me is still Torres, and for the Mets it might be Escobar, and I don't know who else. Who else could the Mets really trade to bring back some value?
Well, here's the thing: if they do trade, it'd probably be maybe Escobar,
Anna?
and maybe kind of, and even Vientos. Look, they can move up.
Well,
they got players in the minors they can move up that are ready to go.
If they want to trade the kids, then they could get better value if there's value out there to be had. That's another question, of course. But they wouldn't trade the kids last year when it came to Soto. So
yeah, I know it. Listen, Mauricio's there. He needs to be on the field, man. I'm sorry, but how much longer are they going to keep him down there, and not bring him up? You know, that's going to be a problem. Look,
they need a jolt, so maybe
I'll package a deal with Vientos and Escobar and Kana maybe, and bring in a pitcher, and then also bring up Mauricio.
That's a lot to give up for what might be out there. I mean, I don't know what front line you're talking about. Starting pitcher, I assume, and
even
be available. You're gonna trade that for Zach Greinke?
No. You stay away. We got to stay. Okay, the Mets have to stay away from the age differential.
Well, he'd fit this rotation pretty well right now.
Oh yeah.
So.
But I'm not gonna. The last game that I was at, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of okay to see Cole versus Verlander, ex-teammates. I was gonna see who got caught first with the.
No, that was the beginning. The early part of that game was fun to watch those two guys dueling out there. Both were pitching well, and it was fun to watch some of that. And then overall, those two games were tough to watch. Just it wasn't great baseball.
No, and credit to Nimmo, man. He's been getting a few clutch games here. So
he has, but he's another guy who kind of choked it up in the field. Both games he had some questionable play out there, and he's a pretty good outfielder in my mind as a rule.
What I like is that he mistakes and he forgets.
Well, that's important.
Yeah,
yes,
that's important as a player. Yeah,
agreed. Let's. And by the way, I said good morning to Tanner and Alec, and I want to mention, guys, get out and watch their content as well.
Good morning, guys. Yeah,
Tanner's
definitely check them out.
Taylor's all over the place on Let's Talk Sports, so I know he talks about Johnny Cruz, but I see Tanner as much as I see Johnny. I don't know there, Tanner. If you're still with us, you can make a comment if you like.
This way summer's coming. I'm a bulldoze him.
You're gonna bulldoze him?
No, I'm just kidding.
We'll go into we won't spend a lot of time on the NBA and the NHL, but I want to talk about our final thoughts on those two series. Did the best teams in the league, not the best teams in the series, obviously, right, because we know who those were. Mm-hmm. By the teams that won. And the final take, let's start in the NBA. The Heat were just overmatched, obviously. They had a great run through the playoffs. Jimmy Butler, was, again, Jimmy Butler. He was a superstar one night and just a decent player the next. So
that was bad for him. He had an opportunity to show out. He had his opportunity. So,
listen, the Heat need to go out and get another body, whether it's Damian Lillard or somebody else.
People keep saying that, but again, the Tyler Hero situation was tough on them, and then they had another series injury. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
But that's still only two bodies, and when
but those two bodies matter, man. Those are players that are taking 26, 35 minutes a game, and they were balancing out.
Of course that mattered, but remember that team finished 8th with those guys healthy, or more healthy, I should say.
Oh, Victor Oladipo. Yeah, listen. But even if they finish 8th, they were doing something that a lot of teams weren't doing, and that was getting better, playing as a team, right? That was the difference. Now, Hero, you could count on him to be more of a point guard, and it would probably help. It would probably help Butler more having him on the court than Vincent at certain situations, and more than Russ, whatever his last name was. But so you're talking about two guys that did kind of matter, but we're not talking about them because they weren't on the roster. So,
well, I think Butler's going to be 34 years old, so there's also probably a school of thought that maybe you move Butler and you rebuild around, the rest of the team.
Well, you're definitely going to probably move on from what's his name from the Cleveland Cavs? I forget his name. He's older too. Love.
Oh yeah, could be gone. Lowry's probably gone, I would think.
Lowry.
But they didn't contribute really. I mean, Lowry.
Those three guys were kind of the glue that that kind of just helped them stay in the game, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, did Love even get off the bench in the finals? I'm not sure that he did.
He played the last two games a lot. He played more than
play more. Yes, you're right.
He had probably averaged about 20 minutes for those two games. But listen, those guys. I'm not saying that they're done, but in this scheme of things, for the Heat, the way Spoelstra wants to do things, they don't fit that well. Maybe Lowry, he's got a little bit more energy than Love and but.
Well, let's focus a little bit more on the team that won, the Nuggets. Are they the best team in the NBA? I'm going to say yes. They finished with the fourth best record, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the regular season.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team. I think they're better than the Bucks. I think they're more complete team than the Celtics and the 76ers. I think this is the best team in basketball, and the best team won in this case. And I think I don't know their contract situations, but they've got a bunch of guys in the prime of their career, and they could win a couple here in the next few years. I mean, a lot of things can happen, injuries and whatnot, but.
So the better team did win. The Denver Nuggets had a better roster.
Talk about everybody, not than the Heat. I mean, everybody in basketball. I say they're the best team in basketball, and that's who won this championship.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And look, I'm also going to give credit to Spoelstra, and he did what he had to do. But on the flip side, Michael Malone did a great job with
not calling him Mike.
Yeah, I was about to.
It's funny how people's names change when they get a little more famous, right?
And so Michael Malone did, and look, his players stepped up. You had Porter Jr. step up, Gordon step up.
Both played great.
And that helped Murray, because Murray didn't – it's not that he didn't do good. It's that he had a few games where he only did good in the first half. Mm-hmm. So those guys stepping up their game in the last three games, that was a difference maker. That was very remember when I texted you that Denver looks like they're playing well. Miami went on a 10-0 run after I sent the text, and I was like, "What's going on?"
Miami was certainly game. They gave it everything they had. They just didn't. They just couldn't match up. This team, they got all the guys you mentioned. Bruce Brown, you didn't mention. Maybe you mentioned him. I didn't hear him, but Bruce Brown played well. He knows former net. I think he's a former net, right? This team reminds me a little bit of the Bucks from a couple of years ago when they beat the Suns. They've got guys who know their roles. They got their two big guys, and the rest of them know what their roles are, which is important. And that's a coaching thing too. When you can get your players on the same page and they know what their role is when they're in the game. And I think these guys do. I think Porter does. Michael Porter Jr. was a guy who was supposed to be a big star in this league, and it never turned out. But now he's a productive player. Right. Aaron Gordon, kind of the same way.
Aaron Gordon got lost in the mix, right? He got lost in the mix, and now he went to a team that allowed him to utilize his skills, and his potential has been just going up. And Alec, I don't know that much is true. Where
it didn't help them, I will say that.
Didn't help them, right? But
Denver's just a much better team.
Denver was big. Denver's bigger as far as lengthwise. I was telling Robert and I told you this, this team is just longer, and that makes it harder for a smaller team to compete because that you have to play tighter on them. You can't, so that's why the zone kind of worked when the guys in Denver were struggling.
Yeah.
When the guys stepped up and attacked the basket and used their length, it just didn't make a difference.
No. And they did a great job. I give them all the credit in the world, but they aren't deep enough. They don't have an answer for Jokic, which nobody does. And when you add Murray to Jokic and they don't have a twosome that can play, Adadabu played okay, but
Bam played better than Butler.
He did play better than Butler, more consistently than Butler in this series anyway.
And if you want to compare the roster and who was doing what they had to do, Martin, just a combination of Martin and Vincent on a few games was better than Butler and having Butler on the court. But Bam was doing everything on both ends of the court. He was burning the candle on both. And
He had a
again,
couple triple doubles, I think, in this series.
yeah,
I think.
and he was actually earning his contract. Remember, he got an extension a couple seasons ago or last season. So he was making his actual, like, he was doing what he had to do as a player, as
Good
a
morning.
personal, and you know, as a personal for his stats too. That's one of the things that some of these guys go off.
Yeah.
So we can't say that they. I feel like they were competitive. They just were lacking the skill level that Denver was at, and the fact that and how much of a team they played. You said something that was correct. That was an 8th place team that kind of just snuck in. Well, Denver wasn't an 8th place team, and they've been playing like that the whole season, and they were better balanced off on defense, offense, and defense. Now Denver almost fell asleep and gave that game away under a couple quarters, and that was just because everybody thought they could shoot threes, and none of those shots were going in, and Jokic wasn't underneath the basket the whole time. They had other guys. And Brown came in on that last game, and he was under the basket, and he was putting shots back up, making good passes. Gordon was moving around, attacking the basket. Porter attacked the basket.
Yeah.
When those 3 guys, Brown, Porter, and Gordon, attacked the basket with their length, there was nobody that was. Bam couldn't stop all 3 of them.
They would have beat the Celtics. A lot of people like to say, "Oh, the Celtics could have beat this team." I don't believe that. I don't think the Celtics beat this team.
I will say that I felt. And I kept saying that would have been a better matchup, but I don't think that Boston, the way that they were inconsistent, remind me of how Miami is inconsistent in some ways. And so I think it would have been a competitive games, but I don't think they would have beat Denver at all.
Say good morning to Football Talk with Bo. Bo, stick around in a few minutes. We'll talk a little D-Hop news, and maybe you want to contribute something there. That'd be great. And good morning to Robert.
Morning, Robert.
Sports Scopes. Another great show on LTS, and you can catch Football Talk with Bo as well. Again, as far as Denver will be back next year and be a contender, I'm not sure about Miami. Miami could go either way.
Right.
They'll probably, to me, without some major changes, this team is going to be another play-in tournament team and need to fight their way all the way through. The Nuggets could very well be back in the West. The West is better than the East, I think, though. So
the competition the West had made it better for the players in the playoffs to be ready to beat the East Coast.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. The competition all year helps for sure.
Yes.
Let's move over to the NHL. Another 5-game series. This one, the Panthers, and I talked to Jim Barringer from FullPressHockey.com, who's our hockey contributor here and also a big contributor on Let's Talk Sports. We talked about this, that the Panthers aren't your normal, just sneak in the playoffs team, because they were the President's Trophy winner last year.
Right.
Had some problems early in the year, made a great run at the end of the year. I think, unlike the layoff for the Nuggets in the NBA championship series, before they got to the NBA championship series, I think the layoff for the Panthers really hurt them when they started a series against the Knights. They had to go to Vegas and get blown out twice. They never really got in this series. They won a game at home in Game 3, but never in a series. In Vegas, to me, again, finished behind the Bruins, finished behind the Devils, finished behind the Hurricanes. I think this might be the best team in hockey. You can say what you want about the Bruins and their record season, but to me, I think the best team won.
I will say this. I said, and I was wrong.
And the West is weaker. In this case, the West is weaker than the East, probably, in hockey.
No, not at all. I think what it is that we see the competitiveness in the East Coast, and we watched it, if you watch hockey in the East Coast, and you saw that Boston was good. Even the Rangers were okay.
Rangers were good.
Islanders were competitive. And then the Panthers were good. Hurricanes, all these teams have a style. They have a way of playing to try to keep you in the game, keep the game close. And you go to the West, and these kids are flying all over the place. Some of these teams have a lot of young guys on them, and then you kind of like it was a different style of play. I don't think that the Panthers got over the first loss. and the break didn't help. But that roster that Vegas has been for the last almost 2 seasons, 3 seasons, has just been getting ready to bubble over. And we don't sometimes we forget that because this owner went all out saying we were going to get a Stanley Cup, and he was making moves. I mean,
fastest expansion team ever to win a championship. And don't forget, their very first year, they were in the final.
Yeah, and let me this is how deep that roster was, right? Hill, who was the best goalie in the playoffs, right? This backed up by Jonathan Quick.
Right.
Like, and Quick he ain't no scrub.
No, that's an embarrassment of riches for sure. So
I mean, and just because he played backup, I'm not saying that he, that, and Jonathan Quick to be in the ear of someone like Hill, who's like on the up, and the president's coming up, and Hill, look, that defense was outrageous for Vegas. They bullied the Panthers. The Panthers tried to be pretty and set up nice goals, and it just nothing that the Panthers did worked, except for the game they won. And I think the only reason they won it was because Vegas was tired of scoring so much.
By the way, a great job, I think, of coaching by Bruce Cassidy, and it's got to feel great for him to have been fired by the Bruins, who have this great regular season, and people are like, "Oh, Bruce Cassidy's gone. Look what happens." The guy wins the Stanley Cup with his new team. Yeah. It's got to feel pretty good for him. Yeah. It's not like he knocked the Bruins out, but it's got to feel really good for him.
No doubt. But again, you said there's a bag of riches there in Vegas. Not just that stadium, not just the T-Mobile Stadium, and look, not for nothing. I'm not a big Vegas guy. Kudos to the fan base in Vegas for supporting your team in and outside of the stadium, in and outside of your stadium. Like, who does that? And all those transports that went to Vegas and now are Vegas fans, kudos to you. Because, sometimes we go somewhere and we're like, nah, my heart is in that's my team. And we don't get into the community and build what we have locally. And they did just that. Because those Vegas people weren't just partying up. Those are true hockey fans who are now supporting Vegas. And that's not a bad thing. You could always love you will always have a first love, but it don't mean you can't have a second love.
One of my viewers the other day said, or commenter said it was ironic that, you had a team in Florida and a team in Vegas, where it was probably 95 or 100 degrees.
I mentioned that to you too, remember?
Maybe you said it too, yeah. Playing each other in this final, and it's certainly a different NHL than we're used to. It's now 30. I'm going to have to make up the number. 36 years or something since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup playoffs. Amazing.
Right.
Well, amazing streak when you think about it. And by the way, Bo, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of what we're touching on here. They easily are the most complete team.
Yes.
More complete than the Bruins even. One of the great collapses in sports history, I'm sorry, is the Bruins collapsing from a 3-1 lead against the Panthers. I know the Panthers were a better team than what their seeding showed, but that's still an epic collapse in any sport in history.
And now I'm gonna say, as a fan of these sports, and I feel for the Boston fans who supporting their teams and getting beat at home. Those are tough pills to swallow. And they got beat at home in basketball and in hockey.
Yeah, where they don't lose it. I mean, Celtics said we're like 7-2 in Game 7s, I think, at home, and the Bruins, I believe, only lost 2 home games all season.
Right. So
in the regular season. So
maybe they should just somebody needs to go sanctify that garden over there, because it's not been a good place for them to show out.
Poor guys. Vegas will be back next year. They're complete. They'll be back. I think the Panthers will be back too, by the way. I think their regular season was an aberration. They were the President's Cup winner last year with the best record. I think this team will be back during the regular season. I think you'll see them at
but I mean, how many of those games did you catch?
Not as much as I would like to have, only because of so much stuff going on at one time here. But
Yeah, so
I
the
saw,
Conn
I
Smythe
saw
winner.
enough of them, and the problem was when I turned the game on, most of them were already out of control. So
Yeah. So the Conn Smythe winner, Marshall Salt. I just want to say one thing. This guy, even Eichel, he played out of his mind the whole playoffs. But Marshall Salt, the type of player he is with the speed that he plays with, and he can slow down in the game and speed it back up. This very well deserved of the trophy.
I will
Very
make
well.
I will make one prediction for next year.
Uh-oh.
Vegas will reach the finals to defend their championship against
The Rangers.
Peter Laviolette and the New York Rangers.
Oh, I know you're gonna mention that name. I don't know if that's a good. I'm not sure if that's a good pickup as a coach.
I think it's a good pickup.
I know that he can. I know because he's been in this area. Everybody knows him. He'll be better in the media than the last coach.
Yeah.
However, being someone who was in Nashville before and seeing him do what he did with the Predators, it's going to be up to Dolan to make sure that Rangers team has two more good defenders. I'm sorry, but if you don't put two more good defenders on that Rangers team,
that's up to Drury. That's not up to Dolan.
No, because Dolan's got to shell out that money. Because Drury's going to want to make sure that they don't get put out in the playoffs. You better come up a way to get that money. So
Dolan leaves this team alone. He doesn't leave the Knicks alone, but he leaves the team
where
alone.
his problem lies. And
you don't want Dolan more involved.
No. What I'm not telling him to get involved. I'm telling him to just leave his wallet open and tell Drury to make sure he gets those two defenders.
That's different. I agree. They need to get a little tougher. And
no, they don't. I mean, these guys, this is hockey. Rangers got tough. They got a lot of tough players. They got a lot of young players. What they need, and they don't need to get older defenders either. They need to get two stalwart defenders who could play one. At least they could play both ends. They need to reincarnate Brian Leetch to somehow or another. And then
maybe put Brian Leetch out there.
Yeah, just put him out there. I'm sure he'll play the same. No, but they need a guy that can play both the back and forth, and they need a guy back there that's just hitting people in the face. Like, because if you don't have those two guys in defense, not to say that what they have now is enough. I'm just saying it's not enough.
Well, next year will be the 30th anniversary of their last Stanley Cup, and hopefully they can make that work to their advantage. What's Bo got here? I think by Kraken fan will take another step forward. Listen, I don't disagree. This is a scrappy team that plays really smart hockey, built a lot differently than Vegas built their expansion team when they did it. But the Kraken have also not quite, not out of the gate like the Knights did in their rookie season, but the Kraken have made considerable progress here as they head into their third season. So I think they're going to be dangerous out west next year. I agree with Bo.
And again, with the team that hasn't a city that hasn't had hockey in a while.
Yeah.
Seattle has come through. Their fans have come through. Even when they did the expansion draft and they was calling people out, they had a big showing. And
I don't even know if they ever had a hockey team in Seattle, even in WHA. I'm not sure that they did.
Yeah, they've had some. Yeah. And I'll tell you what. As long as they're not the Sockeyes, they're gonna be okay.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Let's move on. Before we run out of time, we want to talk in football talk with Bo. We'll get his. Oops, I lost my banners here. What happened?
Are you excited? Are you lighting candles back there? Is that some smoking?
I'm lighting candles.
Hop on your team, and you don't even have a quarterback, Keith. Come on now.
We got a quarterback, and he will be that much better quarterback with D-Hop at wide receiver. Now, second meeting, he went 2 days in a row with the Patriots.
Oh, no.
All the meetings went well by all accounts. The Patriots, but there were some reports that they were optimistic they might even get a contract signed at the end of these 2 days. But
I think it's on the table. I think he might want to go to Tennessee, play with a real running back and an okay quarterback.
We don't have a real running back. You watch Stevenson be one of the top 5 backs in football this year. I'm telling you right now.
You want to make a small wager about that?
I think Hopkins' problem right now is the price is coming down. The original thought was he wanted $14 million. This week that they were talking about he wanted more than what Odell Beckham got with the Ravens, which was going to put him around $18 million. Nobody's paying him $18 million. And if the Cowboys are out, which it seems like they are, I think the price is going to go down even more. You may get less than 10. I think he may have to settle for less than 10, at least for a 1-year contract, and make good, and then sign something long term.
You would sign this guy knowing that you don't have a quarterback. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just hang on one second. Let me go backwards for a second, and then we'll pick that up because Bo had talked about the Thunderbird and the silver tips for the Seattle area. Good call there.
Yeah, I didn't want to mess up the name. I didn't want to give them the wrong bird.
Yeah. There's too many birds out there in Seattle.
Too many birds.
And Alec was throwing down the gauntlet there, saying nobody wants to be in Seattle anyway. Don't take offense there, Bo. I'm sure that.
Are you saying that because Seattle and London have the same kind of weather?
I would say it's pretty close. It might be warmer in Seattle. I don't know. So what? I missed your last comment. Throw that at me again.
I'm sure you want to ignore it. Actually,
well, maybe I was ignoring it.
You would like to sign a wide receiver for that kind of money, knowing that you don't have a quarterback that can get him the ball.
That I don't have a quarterback. I believe I do have a quarterback. Bill O'Brien believes he does have a quarterback. And even if you're not sure if you have a quarterback, signing D. Hopkins is very important because they have to find out if they have a quarterback, and putting D. Hopkins on that field with Mac Jones gives them a year to evaluate Mac Jones. And if he's not the guy, you're going to find out.
$10 million plus to find out if you got a quarterback.
You can't evaluate him with the people he's had around him the last 2 years. You can't.
The fact that you still have to think about evaluating that guy. Look,
again, I just said with the players he's had around him, he had a really good rookie season with the weapons he had to work with. Sorry, he did.
He had an okay season. He had a really
good rookie season. I mean, how many guys have better rookie seasons than Wade had if you're not named, Mahomes, or who didn't play his rookie season, by the way. But anyway,
he was thrown in the fire and he came out. Okay, fine.
You can't blame last year on Mac Jones. He stepped back not because of Mac Jones, but because of the
coaching staff.
It was because they put him in a position where he could not succeed with the coaching staff and the positions the head coach made. Sorry.
If Bill O'Brien can turn things over for Mac Jones, you're thinking it's because they need a top-notch wide receiver and because they already have a good running back. What have they done to that O-line to make sure that this is something that will become successful for them?
I think they've brought them some veterans that can compete for positions. They've drafted some kids that will compete for positions. They've gotten rid of one of the biggest problems on that line, which was Wynn, who, if he was not hurt, he was holding. So I think they'll be better again with real offensive coaches coaching this team all the way through. From the offensive line to the skill position players, they're going to be better because of Bill O'Brien. And by the way, people want to think Bill O'Brien's going to be impediment to D. Hopkins signing with this team. That's not going to matter. It's not. They're going to put that stuff aside. He was the head coach. Now he's a coordinator. It's a totally different relationship, and it's a totally different time in both their lives. So I think you can just put that stuff to bed in my mind. Alex talking about the Ravens are kicking themselves probably for not waiting it out and signing Odell so quickly.
Yeah, Odell's that's going to be.
He's a Niners fan. That's
I'll say this: if this becomes a fiscal financial issue for the Patriots, you better believe that Belichick will definitely not be the coach next season. He would be on the staff of the Patriots probably, but he will not be a coach anymore.
He's not unless he steps down. He's not leaving that sideline. I can tell you right now.
If I'm spending money, if I'm the owner, Robert Kraft, and I'm spending $10 million for a wide receiver because you're the coach, you have the coaching staff, and your head coach is telling me this is going to make a difference. Yes, you better believe you're going to lose your job if you don't get more than 7 wins. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure Bob Kraft's on the same page bringing Hopkins in here.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not going to want that guy. D-Hop is a good wide receiver. He's an okay wide receiver, but he's also got a quarterback that you're not sure of. And you're not sure of what this coaching staff is going to do for you. So you got to figure it out. And the only way to figure it out is the one guy who's going to take all blame for that would be Belichick.
Well, look at it. At the end of the day, the head coach takes blame for everything. My big problem, and listen, it's ironic because when they hired him, I was not a big fan. It took like 2 Super Bowl wins for me to really think
Two?
Bill Belichick was a great coach. Yeah, not even one, two.
No, look at this guy.
And my buddy, who's where we had season tickets. I had season tickets with 30 years ago, 40 years ago, almost now. Was like all over me. How can you not like this guy? I'm like, where would it be despite him? Well, he won me over. But now I'm starting to go the other way because he still hasn't taken responsibility for screwing up this team last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Blaming everybody else.
Since we started this show, and you can go back and you can even have nightmares about this. I've stated to you,
I have.
Belichick should have not been the coach for the last 2 seasons. Now, I told you, he don't need to go anywhere. He just needs to be on upper management or somewhere else, but he doesn't need to be coaching this team. I'm sorry.
If they've got a guy there that they love in Gerard Mayo, who I think they want to be the next head coach, and they're going to have to make a decision because they're not going to be able to keep talking him out of pursuing other jobs forever. So if they want him to be the coach, they're going to have to make a move soon.
And listen, Mayo, he knows that culture, he knows the ownership, and he knows Belichick, and he knows he has an opportunity to be a coach there. That's another reason why he's not going to leave there.
And
the only problem is that right now that there's a lot of turmoil going on, and Belichick is part of that.
Yeah. And, Bo, your comment here is fair. I mean, it's fair not to be a Mac fan, but you do recognize last year he was set up for failure, and he had no chance to compete.
I will say this, and I'm not trying to dog Robert Kraft. Had you known you was going to lose the best quarterback that have ever played in this generation, and you had no backup plan whatsoever, that's on you. That's on you. So what is happening to the Patriots right now is not just a Belichick situation, which I said he could have averted that had Belichick not been the head coach. But it's also on the ownership for not pushing his GM and his coach, his GM assistants, and his to at least get somebody. He
could not keep Brady there. He kept him there once when Brady
didn't have to, but once Brady left, he should have made better decisions. Those decisions he's made since Brady left haven't been great.
Who's the quarterback?
They got a rookie quarterback that wasn't top rated in the NFL draft. They put 2 coaches who did terribly in their past jobs to come back and coach.
How are the quarterbacks?
They didn't even know what they were going to coach.
How are the quarterbacks that went in the same draft as Mac Jones done compared to him that are better? How's Trey Lance done?
They haven't even given them an opportunity. They haven't given these guys an opportunity anyways.
Well, first of all, Trey Lance has had opportunities. He can't play or he can't stay on the field, one or the other.
But at least the opportunity was there for them to get it.
Alec and Bo. Alec is making up with him now that he's one of the few Seahawks fans he can stand. I love your coach.
This is win or go home. If you don't feel like that, you're a fan of the Patriots. You don't feel like that?
I don't feel like it's win or go home. I feel like this team can't go 5-12. I feel that this team goes 10-8, makes the playoffs, wins a game. We're moving forward, and Bill Belichick will move forward with them.
If they only win 7 games, what is your thought process?
7-10 out of the playoffs. There might be some conversations to be had, which is a step forward for me. I would not have said that 2 years ago.
Well, I'm glad we agree about something, but a conversation, man.
Alec could be the fourth best quarterback in that division, or the second. Only time will tell. I agree. Well, listen, Mac Jones is similar to all the teams in this division. In my estimation, especially if D-Hop comes in here, any one of these teams can finish first. Any one of these teams can finish last. I'll keep saying that until we start playing games.
Well, what if Tennessee picks up D-Hop? Then what would be your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion was even before this conversation about Hopkins coming here that they have a chance to be 10-8 because, listen, they won 8 games last year. They won 8-9. They pissed away 4 games that they should have won. And Bill O'Brien's worth at least 2 wins coming in here and actually being able to run a real offense, by the way. And if you're paying attention to OTAs, he's brought a lot of the Alabama stuff with him that Mac Jones knows so well. And Mac Jones has looked night and day compared to the way he looked last year in OTAs because he was lost in and so were the coaches in what they were trying to put together. So
no, I agree that the coaches staff did not help him at all, but that line didn't help him. The running game was neither here nor there. I mean, there's a lot of things that didn't help this young guy, but you're betting $10 million to see if this is the guy who's going to be your quarterback. That's a little high end for me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole Jimmy G, Tom Brady thing is, look at Jimmy G was never going to, he wouldn't have been any better with the Patriots than he was with San Francisco because he can't stay on the field. Can't compare to Lance because that was a dumpster.
From a guy that doesn't know any kind of sports and just talks out of his mind and blah, blah, blah. There's a guy that knows about his name is in his moniker. He's telling you, Trey Lance didn't really have much of a chance.
He had a chance last year. Got hurt. He doesn't look like an NFL quarterback to me. I'm sorry.
Because he's not in a Patriots uniform, or because you don't.
No, it's got nothing to do with being a Patriots uniform. Come on, stop that. I'm a little more objective than that. I don't like Trey Lance. Just like people don't like Mac Jones. I don't like Trey Lance. I think Mac Jones is a better quarterback and will be a better quarterback than Trey Lance.
I've always said Geno Smith don't look like a quarterback, and after 8 years now he's like one of the best quarterbacks.
He had one good year. Let's let him put two together before I get excited. Sorry, Bo.
I'm not excited about Geno Smith whatsoever. Again, and
I will say,
you don't know what you got until you don't got it.
To qualify my statement, I'm not a big Geno Smith fan. I got to see him do it again. Bo, I will tell you that I love your head coach. He's my favorite Patriot coach outside of Raymond Berry of all time, Pete Carroll, by the way. And Pete Carroll, great coach. We got to get out of here. Kyle hasn't given a chance because he hasn't picked up the playbook yet, which is, by the way, part of being an NFL quarterback. So, again, one of the reasons I say I don't think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback.
To be honest with you, I don't think getting a $10 million wide receiver is the best bet to find out whether you have a good quarterback or not. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we'll find out. One way or the other, they have to make a decision because they got to pick up his fifth-year option after this year. It's do or die for Mac Jones, I can tell you that right now. So, that's a fair statement when it comes to him. Guys,
as good as it's going to get.
We got to get out of here, Alex. Bo, Tanner, thanks for popping in and contributing. Carlos, thank you, as always, for some spirited conversation. And we'll be back next week. And I'll be on later today with our Major League Baseball update at 3 o'clock Eastern, and also with Let's Talk New York Sports with Dan Harris at 5. See you guys later. Have a great, great weekend. Talk to you later.
Guys. Happy Father's Day.